Hi, I'm Greg.
And I'm Leanne,
Welcome to Empowered Now.
where we save humanity
One relationship at a time.
We all struggle from time to time connecting with and understanding others and ourselves.
So we hope to encourage you to live a more authentic and empowered life by sharing what we've learned as coaches and as individuals.
Empowered Now is LGBTQ2IA, alternative lifestyle, poly, and kink friendly.
Thanks for joining us
And enjoy the show. Hi, and welcome to episode 14, all about group sex. Welcome to our special guest, Ellecia Paine, hailing from Washington State. She is a sex, love, and relationship coach, just like us. Hey, Alicia.
That's right.
Yes, you're like our colleague in the States.
That sounds all fancy and stuff.
I actually gave someone of your guys' information the other day.
Did you?
I did.
not.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Oh, thank you. We appreciate that so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Awesome. So how are you today?
I'm wonderful and hot.
yeah, you
Yeah.
are.
It's like 90 degrees today, which is unheard of here.
So I guess the first thing that comes up for me that I would like to know is your protocols. What sorts of things do you have in place protocol-wise in terms of group sex as a whole?
What do you mean by protocols?
For instance, safe sex, that kind of stuff, do's, don'ts, agreements, negotiations,
Boundaries.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, that's great. So I teach a course called Getting It On in a Group, intentional threesomes, foursomes, and moresomes.
Nice.
And in that course, I offer a what I call your safe sex spiel. I'll send you guys a PDF of it you can put on the thing.
Okay.
But it's a safe sex spiel. And so your spiel is your status, right? Your STI status, your latest tests, the results, anything that's happened since then. This is the scariest part of having a conversation with anybody about sex, I think. And so when you lead with that, then it's done.
Mhm.
The P is your personal safety needs. So this is where you share your own personal safer sex needs, your own barrier usage protocols, safe words, any other needs you have for like your physical and emotional safety. The I in spiel is your intimacy desires. So your turn-ons, your turn-offs, any body parts or sexual acts that you have boundaries around, things like that. The E is essentials about me. So my pronouns, words I might not like used, any boundaries, any relationship agreements, things like that. And then last but not least, how about you? And so this is kind of how I like to frame a conversation if I'm, just talking about meeting up with people for a group situation, if I'm at like a party or a club and about to like get involved in something, I really, really big advocate of condom use, but not just condom use, but like responsible condom use.
Right.
Can you give the listeners an example of irresponsible condom use?
Yeah. In a group sex situation, if you're a penis haver and you're using a condom, you need to change it between every partner, and
Yes.
preferably wash your hands as well, because your hands were just on that condom.
Mhm.
So yeah, before a condom goes into another person, it needs to be a fresh one.
Mhm.
And I think that gets missed, actually. Like, either people don't think about it or they're just in the heat of the moment, but that's essential. Otherwise, it's ineffective.
Right.
I love that. So it's called spiel. What was the S in spiel?
Status.
Status, right?
Yeah.
Great. That's awesome.
That's great. That's great. That's awesome. I
you.
love the acronyms. I'm a fan of
It helps.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it does. So when you're doing the acronyms thing, the spiel thing, is it more of an organic conversation, or is it like an what do they call that? The ladder, where you ask all the questions in a row, or is it more organic for you?
For me, it's more organic. I did practice it in a mirror, like an elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
here's my safe sex spiel that I'm gonna give to everyone, and then ask them to give me their
Right.
information.
Right.
And it, makes me feel more comfortable.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that idea a lot.
And I like the idea that if it's a step one, right? Then everyone has informed consent when they're interacting.
Yeah.
It's not about, oh, I should tell you just as if we're, about to get hot and heavy. It's like, oh no, don't tell me that now. Right?
Yeah.
That's a boundary for me. I have to say no now. So
Oh, no.
right? If you get it kind of done as an introduction, it's like that's finished. We can move on.
Yeah.
See if there's a connection. Yeah.
So one of the other protocols that comes up for me, and this is just a personal thing, but in terms of engaging in anything, any libations, so alcohol, drugs, any of that kind of stuff, for me, I prefer not to be in that environment. What about you? Like, does that come up in your protocols at all?
You don't have to speak personally, but you can speak professionally.
Oh, well, I was going to say, this is one of those situations where I don't practice what I preach.
Gotcha.
I definitely recommend sober play for the most part, because especially if you're with people that you aren't familiar with, you don't know what their limitations are. You don't know, is this someone who blacks out? You have no idea.
Yeah, right.
Right. I, however, know for myself what's acceptable. And so I don't stick to entirely sober play, but that's fun too. I can do all the things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I think it's still, as long as you're still being responsible.
Yeah.
I think, you know your own limits and you know where you're at with that and stuff, as long as you're being responsible with it. And it's like anything, and anything in excess could be damaging and hurtful. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Then,
play within your limits, right?
Yeah.
So I have been given question 2.
Not that we're going in any order.
We're not, but
This is
we do have a list.
Completely organic and free flowing.
Always.
Yeah. So I think we should all answer this one.
Uh-oh. That wasn't, where's that? That's not written down anywhere on this piece of paper.
Okay. All right. Well, it's optional. Opt in, opt out. We can answer personally or professionally, but
I have a personal boundary around that.
do you?
No.
Okay. You go ahead and honor your boundary. I'll honor it too. The question is, why do people choose to have group sex in the first place? What is the intention?
That's a good question.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, with super varied answers, right?
Of course.
I mean, I think everyone has a different reason. And I believe that actually knowing why personally, for yourself, is very, 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 very fucking important.
Mhm.
Why are you doing this? What is what is guiding you? Where, how do you figure out what your limits are? How do you figure out what's going to be okay and not okay for you if you don't know why you're even doing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think for a lot of people, it's, for most people, I think it's just fulfilling a fantasy.
Yeah.
Right. And then for the rest of us who keep doing it, the fantasy turned out to be awesome. Let's see. For myself personally, I am a very sensation-driven person.
Mm-hmm.
More people is more hands and more body parts and more mouths and more sensations. So that's what I enjoy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Thanks.
Let's see if it's up there.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
Yeah, I think for me, when I have done it, it's been about how do I put this? The awareness that it brings me to self and to others, the connection, the energetic connection and awareness that happens. The word conscious comes to mind, but that's not really quite what I mean, because it's almost an unconscious experience in some ways. as well as a conscious experience. But it very much brings me into my body. It very much brings me into my own energy and how my own energy interacts with other people. And then bringing other people's energy into that as well has been an incredible experience for me. And that's not to say that every experience has been incredible, but I've learned from every experience and been able to say, okay, so this is more in tune with what I want as opposed to that, and so on. And so, like you said, Alicia, with the whole, you don't know what you don't know what you like until you do something, or at least, try it anyway. And so, for me, I would say that that's probably why is that whole stepping into that energy, expansiveness, openness, loving. There's a lot of love that happens in an environment like that. And I'm not talking about the romantic kind of love. I'm talking about the energetic kind of love, giving and taking and receiving, and honoring and so on. So I would say that's what it is about for me.
I love that.
Thanks.
And I have to follow that. Okay. I just like it a lot. No. Well, my introduction to group sex really is threesomes, and that never expanded for quite a long time. And so in those situations, the intention was to connect with those people. It was about those people, those individuals. In later years, that expanded to more people in the room, sometimes that I would interact with and sometimes I wouldn't, like really for me, the energetic experience that you're talking about, Greg, is personal, but also that collective, right? Being in that space of sex positivity, body positivity, acceptance, and seeing each other as beautiful, even when we're flawed. And, all of that really heightens the experience for me sexually, and it helps me feel more comfortable in my own skin. It just, it's inspirational in some ways to see, people of all shapes and sizes enjoying each other. It's like, damn, just a nice internal reminder to myself that I don't have to be perfect. I can have a mummy tummy and stretch marks and I'm still cute. Right. So for me, it's a bit of the collective experience in the space that really hits home.
Yeah, that totally resonates.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that too, because for me, the confidence, the body positivity and the body confidence piece comes up for me too. Because it feels good. I mean, as somebody who lives a clothes-free life whenever possible and enjoys being naked, being in that environment and feeling safe in that environment, to be seen that way and to show up that way is really, really incredible for me. And there's one other thing that came up for me while you were talking, honey. That is the idea of consent popped up for me, and this idea that no means no, and no is a complete sentence in that environment. And I don't know, has that been
in any environment?
Yeah, when in any environment, but especially in that one, as you go through in your understanding, other people's boundaries and respecting them and honoring them. No means no, right? And so just because you, in your elevator pitch, you said, or in the spiel, you said that this area wasn't off base, when somebody is no pun intended, sliding in to do something, and it's feeling like a no in that moment, feeling safe enough to say, this is a no, and can we do something else, is pretty powerful, and it feels safe. What's been your experience with that kind of thing, Alicia?
Yeah, absolutely. I have found that actually in group sex situations, I find it actually easier to say yes and no to things that I want, and to like ask for consent, and have people say like, hey, I'd like to do this thing to you. Can I do that? Or, hey, would you like this? Would you like that? I feel like that actually happens a lot easier when there's multiple people around. In my experience, I've also had, I remember one time, like one of the first times my husband and I went to a swingers club, and we're in this like social area, you know, and I was wearing like a short skirt, and someone we were talking to kept grabbing my butt, and I just kept scooting away, like not saying anything, you know, and then my husband told him to back off, but he told me, he was like, you know, just because you're in this environment doesn't mean that you don't have agency over your body. Like, and it was a reminder that I actually needed, right? Like I kind of felt like, oh, well, I'm here at a sex club where, you know, wearing basically nothing. I'm clearly asking for people to touch me, but like, no, I wasn't asking for this guy to touch me. He just thought he could, you know? And it was a really powerful reminder that like, I can absolutely say no.
Yes, for sure. I've had similar experiences.
And so have I. I've had similar experiences as well, where women, I don't know, for some reason, women seem to think it's okay to rub my head without asking me. And that really bothers me. And, you know, so it's been an interesting, and I've learned to advocate for not doing that. But there are certain situations where it's like, I don't do that. And then I'm like, why didn't I do that? You know? And so it's weird. It's definitely something that comes up for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you
Well,
for
I
sharing
think
that.
when that self-advocacy doesn't pop up for me, I think it's about people pleasing. I think it's about not wanting to cause a fuss, you know, not wanting to make someone else uncomfortable at my own expense.
Yep. Yep.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah. And so I think one of the cool things that you've brought up is that in this environment where consent is really essential, it's a way to reinforce that we always have agency and sovereignty.
Yeah. It's interesting to me because you pointed out that you feel that it happens more often in group sex environments as opposed to one-on-one. And now that I'm looking at that, I'm going, yeah, that's true. That's been my experience as well. It's almost like when you're in a one-on-one environment, there's some assumptions that get laid down, you know, and I know I've been guilty of those assumptions as well. And in terms of talking about consent, and I know we talked about this in our previous podcast that we did with you, but consent is really fucking sexy. It's super sexy. I mean, asking somebody or letting somebody know, hey, I would love to do this to you. Are you open to that? Is way sexier than just doing something that somebody might not be open to. I mean, I just, you know, yeah. So it's interesting that I've had experiences one-on-one where it wasn't as vocalized. It wasn't as discussed. So that's really interesting. Thanks for pointing that out.
I wasn't even aware of it until like we had this conversation. So
that's really the reason. And that's really the reason we do these. Is it's got nothing to do with the audience. It's got everything to do with us learning. That's really, we just sit here and talk to each other and guess, and it's like, yeah, okay, we learned something. Yay, okay, we're happy. Yeah. So I guess, well, the next question is engaging safely, but I think we kind of already covered that a bit.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk a bit more about the emotional safety, though.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
So I think what comes up for me when I think about emotional safety is you're in a very energetic space, and there's a lot of shit going on, and there's a lot of stuff happening, a lot of energy being exchanged and stuff. What's been your experience emotionally in that environment, and how do you manage those emotions, or how do you suggest people manage those emotions if they start to feel like too much? So that they can feel safe, right? To engage and to be seen.
Yeah, I think it's really important to kind of set a container ahead of time that it's okay to take a break, right? That it's okay to like go to get some water, go to the bathroom, step outside, like do something to kind of disengage for a moment and center yourself. I think a lot of people actually need that, and they just keep pushing through when they're, you know, feeling emotionally overwhelmed, tired, thirsty, they gotta pee, you know, any of those things, and people just kind of push through and start performing. And I think when you establish ahead of time, you know, kind of in the conversation, like it's okay to take a break, you know.
And just further to that, if you're tending with a partner, to kind of maybe set some agreements around what's my role or responsibility where you're concerned for, if you're feeling overwhelmed and I can see that you're leaving or that you're taking a break or that you need to go, how are we going to navigate that together?
Yeah.
Right?
Or are we going to navigate that together?
Well, yeah, that's part of the conversation.
Right.
Yeah. That's super important.
Yeah. Ellecia, you brought up something interesting that I wanted to ask you about. It's not on the list, so we're going a little bit, we're taking a little bit of a left turn here. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
So you mentioned the word performing.
Uh-huh.
I find that interesting. Can you explain what that means to you in that environment?
Yeah. I think it's really, it's easy to find yourself in a performative situation. So like, instead of doing whatever feels natural or authentic to yourself, performing is like having sex in a way that like makes you look good, or you feel like you're doing the thing that other people want, even if it's not really what you're desiring. Right. I don't know. I can't think of any examples, but
that's great.
But just like showing up as a porn star
I can think of a lifetime of examples, actually.
Yeah.
I think the reason it resonates with me is because I'm kind of not kidding. I do have a lot of those instances where I found myself in a performative state. And the interesting thing too is that when men are having sex, they refer to it as performing, right? From a clinical standpoint too, which I always had an issue with, because you're established almost immediately that it's a performative process. I'm performing something on somebody else or something with somebody else, right? And it's almost like it's a procedure, right? And I'm like, oh my God, maybe that's your kink, but it doesn't work for me. And so the reality is that when I heard that word pop up, I was like, oh shit, okay, there's something there. And in that environment, that group sex environment, I think it's easy because, especially for us show-offs, that we can start to step into that performative sort of, I want to be the rock star stud in the room, right? And I think from a male perspective, I think it behooves us to get really honest with ourselves about why that matters and why it's so fucking important to us in that environment. Yes.
I need to address the gender issue because I think it is just as powerful for women.
Okay.
The messaging that we get is be the porn star, right? And rock the Casbah all the time, and and these positions and that kind of experience that you're supposed to give someone. Right. I can think of a lot of instances where I have felt really like not authentic, as you said, Ellecia, and that whole script starts running, right? How do I appear? Am I making the right sounds? Is this hot enough? Am I doing the things, the checklist of things?
Is my tummy in tight enough?
Right.
How does my ass look?
How does my ass
arch your back more?
Oh God, yeah. And it's really uncomfortable sometimes to do all of that. Suck it in and arch it and stick it out, and you're just like, holy crap. No wonder you need ibuprofen the next day. I'm just saying.
As an exhibitionist myself, like I find I really have to come back to my body and go, am I doing the thing I want to do, or am I doing the thing so people will look at me and watch me? Because I like both of those things and I want them to like merge, right? I want them to be the same.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And same for me, I think too, but I think where the growth happened for me was so before it was about others seeing me and the performative aspect. And now it's about me stepping into intention and consciousness and awareness with the person that I'm with in that connection. And then the other part is just sort of the icing on the cake, if it happens to happen. So I think switching those two, the priority that I placed on those two things and putting connection above, I don't want to use
performance.
Yeah, putting the connection, but is it, the question too is it a performance if it's innately part of who I am?
No.
Like being an exhibitionist is something that I enjoy. It's a kink of mine. I enjoy it. So is it a performance?
Mm-mm.
I think the word that I'm looking
I was
for.
using the clinical term.
Yeah, yeah, no, but it's a good point though, because I'm questioning that. I'm like, is it a performance? And I'm like, I think sometimes it can be, but in that environment, my experience has been that I've slowly learned to focus more on the connection and less on the observation, I guess, for lack of a better term, or what it
Mhm.
might look like.
Well, what happens is the more you're focused on the connection and on your authentic, like your what you really want, like your actual desires, the better the performance actually shows up.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah. It all just starts to look a lot better.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great point. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where I've come from is that whole stopped worrying about the performative aspect, because that's the word we're using here, and focus more on the connection. And you're absolutely right. So that's a good point. Thanks.
Yeah, it
That-
shifts the whole.
Thanks for going down that
energy.
rabbit hole.
Yeah, we're not done yet because I've got something else that came up for me. So
Yes.
when you're in that connection space, has it been your experience that it matters much less what is going on with the genitals? Like if he's hard, she's wet, like it's more about sharing the feeling than it is about worrying about the technicalities, as it were. Has it been your experience that happens?
Yeah. Eh, how to answer that? I when you're more focused on the connection, I think then what happens with the genitals is much less important, and it becomes much more like I want to give and receive pleasure,
Right.
right? With all the things.
Yeah.
And pleasure can show up so many different ways. Right. It's literally not just about the genitals. Like, so totally.
Yeah.
That's a great
I'm just
question.
like, put anything in me. I don't care.
Will this fit?
Yeah. And then wash those things.
Yeah.
Before and after, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hygiene, it matters. Cool. That's a great question.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and that's interesting too. I think again, I can only speak from a male perspective because that's how I identify, and I wouldn't ever for a second try to speak from any other perspective. I think that from a male perspective, for me, one of the things that took a while for me to get used to, and this is just sex across the board, it's not just in a group sex environment, was this idea that I didn't have to use my genitals in order to pleasure somebody. And in fact, pleasuring somebody had very little, if anything, to do with my genitals. And so once I realized that, and once I was able to step into that energy and accept that, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, so this opens up a whole new world for everybody involved, for the entire connection. And I've had some of the most incredible sexual experiences, both group and individual, where there was no orgasm. There was no, I didn't even get hard, but it was an incredible and amazing sexual experience because of that giving and that receiving and that connection that can happen and stuff. So that's beautiful. So
I think that's probably the best advice that can be given to anybody socialized as a man, is to learn how to have sex without your penis.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's
like that's where you hit like the holy grail stuff.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And because we're so wrapped up in cock size and performance and how many and all of this other stuff, but you're leaving so much other amazing and beautiful, just wonder, like I don't know what other word to use, but just wonder of connection if that's all you're focused on.
Yeah.
Agreed. So I'm just curious about what's changed between where you started your journey in the sort of multiple, sex partners at once to now, and is it intentional? Was it more of a surprise to you as to how things changed or shifted, or have things changed?
I love this question so much. Okay, so when I was probably about 17, I had my first threesome with a long-term boyfriend and a good friend of mine. And, I was like, I think I'm bi. She's cute. Like, this will be fun. And it was a horrible experience.
Oh.
First of all, I had no idea what to do with a vagina. No idea what to do with any of those pieces. And I was on my period and I was super jealous. And like the whole thing was so bad. And afterwards I was like, I'm straight and I don't share. And that's how I identified for the next like 15, 16, 17 years.
Wow.
And then I was like 35, getting divorced, decided I was not going to be monogamous ever again because I wanted to have all the experiences and didn't want to be limited or tied down metaphorically by someone. And started having, what happened? I was dating a guy who introduced me to another girl he was dating. And he was like, I really want to have a threesome with you guys. And we were both like, nah, like we're straight. Like, that's just, it's not going to happen. And then I started dating my now husband and it did happen. And, and a lot of things shifted for me. One, I realized like, I didn't just think girls were pretty. So we started having like mostly threesomes, and then we went to a swingers club for his birthday. Like, let's try this thing. Oh my God, they really exist. And we went and met another couple who totally randomly I had been at a retreat with the woman prior. She's like, I know you. And I was like, oh shit, you know me? Oh wait, we're both here. This is probably fine.
Right.
And so then we started experimenting with like larger and larger groups. And even I think the like penultimate was a New Year's Eve party we went to and wound up in a hotel suite with like 10 people having a big orgy. That was freaking fantastic. It was so good. So yeah, it's changed. It has shifted. And now, from like experimenting and seeing what I liked, trying a bunch of different things, to now like I can create really intentional situations that like check all the boxes for me, because there's less I want to try this thing and see how it goes, and more I know what I like, and so that's kind of what I'm going to create here. I like a snack platter. I like lots of ice water. I like to have lots of pillows in the room for different positions. Like, yeah. And emotionally, it was like a roller coaster, right? Like from knowing that this was a thing I wanted to do while also feeling possessive and jealous and insecure. And oh my God, look at how she gives head. I clearly am the worst ever at giving a BJ. So not true, but I learned a lot from her.
Yeah, it's like,
like so many insecurities would come up and I would compare myself to other people. And I learned, and I think through having those experiences and continuing to come back into my partnership and still having great sex, like having those experiences didn't lessen what we had. And I got to experience that. And my whole nervous system went, oh, okay, actually we're good. It's all fine here. So then like being able to hit a point where I can just watch and feel compersion. I can ask for what I want. If I'm feeling left out, I now know I can just like reach out a hand and touch my partner and he'll pull me in. I think that's one of the things when you're with a partner in a group situation, I think that's a really important thing. It's really easy to be focused on the person directly in front of you, right? Human beings naturally pair off. Like dyad sex is much, much simpler than multiple partner sex, because we know who we're supposed to be focused on if we're fucking one person.
Mhm.
And so, so in a group situation, I think it's really important to, instead of feeling like, oh, I'm being left out and they're just focused on each other, is to just kind of step in, reach out a hand, or say, hey, can I kiss you, or can I participate, or can I touch you over here? Can I do this thing? Just like maybe stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit. I mean, you're already having group sex, so it can't be that further to step. But reaching out and letting it be known that you are there and desiring to be a part of what's happening, because that will remind the other people like, oh yeah, come on in. There's very little chance that they're like, no, get lost. Like we all showed up here for the same thing. So
Right.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful answer. Thank you very much. I think one of the things that came up for me while you were talking about it was I want to make the statement that never make assumptions, even about the people that you know, if you're in that environment, even about your partner. So your partner might be engaged in some really, really just, orgasmic fucking, and you want to participate. As opposed to just stepping in and starting to participate, the same rules of consent would apply to your partner in that situation as they would to anyone else. And that's really, really important to understand, because I think oftentimes, because we have that connection as partners, and outside of that environment, consent would look different.
Yeah.
Right. So I think when you step into that environment, make sure that you bring awareness to the fact that if your partner's doing something with somebody else, that doesn't give you license to start doing something to your partner in that environment, or to the person that they're doing whatever they're doing with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Consent applies across the board to everybody in the room, whether you know them or you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I've had the experience where, I was enjoying someone, and then someone who'd been with him before made an assumption and took over the upper part of his body, and I was like cut off suddenly from, you know what I mean? And he didn't give consent. There was no conversation or signaling or anything that happened. So that was a big assumption. And, he did talk to her about it, and that was great. So it's not a big deal. It was just a moment of, wow, that happened, right? Yeah. I think that's a really good point, honey. And also I do get distracted by sounds quite easily. I don't know, maybe I'm a little ADHD, I don't know, but sometimes when I'm focusing on a sexual activity with someone and I can hear my partner like right there. I don't know if it's happened to you. Has it? Where it's like listening in a little bit. It's like,
oh yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah, I think it's I don't know. I don't know if there's any way to like not do that. No. But being aware that it's a thing is helpful. Yeah.
It could be fun too. Like if your partner's getting hot and heavy and you're hearing the moans and the groans and whatever sounds they make, and that could add to it as well, or it could distract from it. Like it could be one of the two. If you're really trying to be present with the person that you're with, and your partner's,
or a little both.
Yeah, or a little bit of both. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's a really good point. It is interesting to me that that consent piece, and then also hearing your journey from being like, no, I'm straight and I never want to do that again. I'm straight and I'm too jealous, right? I mean, as we all do the same thing here. We all do it pretty much in the same world of poly and non-monogamy. It's interesting to me to hear how many times things like jealousy come up in that environment. And so again, we're going a little bit off book here and I think we're taking a right turn this time. But anyway,
go for it.
So I think one of the things that comes out for me is, what's been your experience with people that you love and you care about, whether they're partners or friends or whatever relationship dynamic you're in? What's been your experience when you're in that group sex experience, that environment rather, and those emotions, those jealousy emotions, or those life protecting emotions start to come up?
Good question. I mean, I've had multiple experiences with that, right? From just push through keep going, perform, because you don't want to ruin everybody's good time,
Mhm.
to to learning that I can just ask to take a break. Like, hey, I'm having a moment. Can we pause for 10 minutes?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really weird to be in the situation that you want to be in and also have your body telling you that something is not right. Right. And especially when like I know like this is a subconscious thing.
Mhm.
You know, this is something I've been conditioned to. Like, I'm not in danger. I love these people I'm with. Nobody is harming me. Like I am very logically aware that like everything is fine. And my body is going, but it's not, you're going to die. He's leaving you.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a lot of self-awareness, right? And practice.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah, practice and
Just
also
keep
just
doing it, kids.
creating an environment where communication is open and clear and you can talk about these things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think, taking the break, advocating for your needs, what you want in the situation is absolutely key. And then the really good point is the self-awareness piece, right?
Yeah.
And then I would add to that and say that no matter what you're feeling and experiencing in those moments, it's okay.
Yes.
Perfectly valid experience, a perfectly valid emotion. Even though, like you said, you're in this space where you're like, oh my fuck, I can't believe I'm actually doing this. And then part of you that is like, oh my fuck, I can't believe I'm actually doing this. Right? You're having the same exact reaction, or sorry, two different reactions to the same exact stimuli. And I think we need to understand as human beings that that's perfectly okay. In fact, I would go so far as to say it's normal, especially the farther into it we go, if we're new to it, or if it's, maybe our first, second, or even third experience. As our body starts to physically wear down, so do our defenses, and oftentimes emotions can start coming up out of nowhere. It's seemingly that you're like, oh, fuck, where's that coming from? I was fine 5 minutes ago. Well, when was the last time you had a drink? When was the last time you had something to eat? When was the last time you got up and walked around? When was the last time you took 5 minutes for yourself and just, grounded yourself again, right?
Yes.
So those kinds of questions and things that you start asking yourself in those environments, because physically, when we start to wear down, then our, like I said, our defenses, our emotional defenses are also wearing down as well. So we have a tendency to have more emotional, I wouldn't say emotional reactions because it's all emotional reaction, but more pronounced emotional reactions than we might have had an hour or 2 hours before.
Yes. Absolutely.
Well, and to that point, I think that all group sex parties should start at like 5 p.m.
I agree.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Why are things starting at 11? It's my bedtime.
Right, exactly.
I didn't
Give me a
have
pillow. I
nap.
just want to sleep.
I like to host barbecues that go into playtime. That's my favorite. 2 in the afternoon.
2 in the see, that's humane.
Yeah. Responsible right there. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Barbecues. Come to my barbecue orgy.
Yeah.
Have a burger, have some chicken, have some sex. That's awesome.
What do you
Hot
take
dog
on
or
that?
hamburger?
We also have tacos.
Please.
Yeah.
I'm crying. That was funny.
So one of the
Is that true? Sorry, is that true? Do you actually have barbecues that go to orgies?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Why not? Duh. Doesn't everybody?
Yeah. It's just, like normal.
Seems very reasonable.
It seems reasonable.
I think so.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about was it's not on the list either. It just occurred to me before we started. I am so sorry. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's perfectly okay. Uh-oh, I can't get it. Oh well.
So we are often not on the exact same page as our partner in terms of coming into a new experience, doesn't matter what it is, but particularly sexually,
Mhm.
and particularly this kind of a new experience, right? Where, maybe you've had threesomes, but I haven't. And so for me, even having one more person in the room would be a step, right? And now we're at 10. It's like a lot. So what would you, kind of give people as advice in terms of if you're not with a partner who has the same, I guess, level of experience, how can you make it more comfortable for them? How can you kind of reassure them? What would be your take on that?
I think, okay, a couple of things. One, I always advise baby steps. Moving
Mhm.
slowly is super, super important just for so that people can feel safe, right?
Yeah.
So baby steps. So maybe don't start with a 10-person orgy, or if you do have something like we aren't going to have intercourse with other people, we'll do other things but no penetration, right? Or have some guidelines in place that kind of so it's not just a no holds barred, do everything kind of thing. Establish some guidelines and comfort, like what makes you feel comfortable, what would make you feel really uncomfortable. And I think compromise is really important. And people often think that compromise means I will give up what I want so that you can have what you want. And that's sacrifice and is not loving for yourself or your partner.
Mhm.
So finding the things where you are both getting what you want. Maybe not everything you want, but we don't always get everything we want. I can't eat all the dessert I want to eat. It's
Mhm.
just not feasible. But I can have like a slice of cake. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's great. Great. Thank you. It's beautiful. And actually, what comes up for me in terms of the idea of compromise and versus sacrifice is I think compromise is about connection and sacrifice is about disconnection. Sacrificing some part of myself. So it doesn't feel sacrificial to compromise to something and say, hey, you know what? I can see that this is really important to you.
Mhm.
So I'm going to make the agreement that, yeah, we can do that, even though it's not something that I would necessarily normally do on my own. Right. And we do that in every area of our lives, whether we're aware of it or not. Like, I don't know about you, but I drive differently depending upon who's in the car with me.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, that
that
makes sense.
It's a
that
great
to me,
analogy.
well, that to me is a level of compromise
Yeah.
And compassion.
and compassion, right? And
Mhm.
we've talked about compassionate partners and stuff before. But if yeah, I mean, and I don't know if anybody else drives differently when other people are in the car, but if you've got somebody who's got particularly maybe they got anxiety for whatever reason, you don't, and if you're normally a, pedal to the metal kind of driver, you might want to dial that back a bit, even though it still doesn't feel quote unquote authentic to you. That's called compromise. You're not sacrificing anything because you're still getting where you're going. You're still together. You're still engaging in the same thing. It's just you're doing it in a different way.
Yeah.
To be compassionate to the people that you're with.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? Because I always say that nobody lives in a fucking bubble. And even people that live on islands alone still don't live in a bubble. There are still things that they need to take into consideration about the environment around them. So it's impossible for us to not do that. And I think in a group sex environment, especially if you're with somebody who's new or uncomfortable with it for whatever reason, maybe they're not new to it, but maybe they're uncomfortable with it because of some environmental change or it's a new, whatever, right? It doesn't matter. I think bringing awareness to that and honoring that is so fucking important.
Mhm.
And I think it creates and builds connection. And it also creates and builds a beautiful experience that you might not have otherwise if you just sort of kind of jumped in feet first.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You could
That's a
apply that
great
to
analogy.
anybody
I
in
really
that
like it.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? A partner or just someone that you meet there that you don't know. And if they express to you that this is their first time,
Oh yeah,
baby steps.
absolutely. Yeah, there's no slamming up against the wall and that's it. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so I mean, yeah, that's true.
Start
That's...
small, work up.
So overall, in general, what other advice would you give to somebody or anyone who's considering or contemplating stepping into a group sex environment?
Mhm.
Yeah. Don't fuck someone you don't want to fuck.
Love that. And on that note, that's a mic drop moment.
I just mean, like, don't take one for the team, right? Don't have sex with someone that you have no interest in because your partner is interested.
Mhm.
It goes back to the sacrifice thing. Like just don't do that. And the other thing is that I think it's really important that people know that they can establish what, like, just because you're agreeing to have sex with people doesn't mean you are agreeing to do everything that's on the table, right? I have a partner who, anytime we have a group sex situation, she wants no penetration,
Mhm.
right? Like I'm down to touch and be touched, but I don't want anything in me. This is a hard boundary for her in those situations because then she feels really vulnerable. And I think that is such a powerful place to be in, to realize that, like, sex doesn't mean intercourse, and you don't have to participate in all the things that are up for offer. And like, it's just have first of all, if you can't set boundaries, then you are not in an environment that you should be in, right? If people aren't gonna respect your boundaries and or pressure you or anything like that, you don't be there. I don't know, I went off topic.
No, you didn't. That was
No,
great.
no.
Okay, good.
That's great advice.
Yeah, that's absolutely great advice. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank
And
you.
if people are not respecting your boundaries, sometimes it's pretty subtle,
Yeah.
right? Can be quite coercive.
Mhm.
Sort of the
It's true.
typical, oh, no, I don't do that. Oh, really? Come on. Come here.
Not even for me.
Yeah. So eyes wide open.
You just haven't been with the right person.
Yep.
I've heard before.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that's all the things.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I mean, I'm sure there's more, but like none that comes to mind.
Well, we will definitely put your contact information
Wonderful.
in our podcast information so that people can reach out to you if they would like to talk to you more about this.
Yeah.
And thank you for being our special guest today.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, you know what? I should probably say, in the fall, I will have a live.
Yeah.
I will have a live version of Getting It On in a Group happening, which by live, I mean we will have live Zoom calls, not in person. So that information for that will be on my website.
Okay.
Fabulous.
You're also sending me some information about the group as well, so that we can post that on part of the links and stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. I look forward to seeing that stuff. Thank you.
And you also have a PDF to share for our viewers / listeners.
I do.
Right.
Fantastic.
All the sharing.
Yep. Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks,
Good talking to you
Alicia.
guys.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you again. Thank you very much for being a guest. We appreciate you. We love having you on, and yeah, it's nice to talk to colleagues and get to know other people in the business and stuff.
Absolutely.
And hear other perspectives and opinions. So it's wonderful. Thank you. I'm going to shut up now.
Okay, we'll wrap it up. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
All
let's
right.
wrap it up.
And remember,
Choose love.
and keep it kind.
We'd love to hear your comments, questions, or topic suggestions. And remember to subscribe.
And you're invited to join our Facebook group, Empowered Now Relationship Support and Advice for All.
You can reach out to us on our websites at gregmillion.com
And LeanneMillion.com.
or follow us on Instagram at gregmillion.lifecoach.
And at Leanne Million. Oh shit, I hope I recorded the whole thing.
Oh, fuck.
Did.
Yeah,
I did?
it was recording the whole
Yeah.
time. Yeah, I saw the
Yeah,
little
you did.
word
Okay, good.
up on the top there.
That scared me.
Yeah. Alicia, sorry, we're gonna have to do this all over again. Figuring that out, so I was able to step into that space with abundance as opposed to, resentment and stuff. So
Oh, that's lovely.
Isn't that great?
Yeah,
thanks.
it
Yeah.
really is.
Thanks. Oh
Yeah.
shucks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so, our brains are so weird.
They are.
Thank God, though, because otherwise we wouldn't have a job.
Right?
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, that reminds me, honey. My next birthday,
Yeah.
I want a BBQ orgy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Good plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, never mind. It's
We
in
might have to build a
February.
bigger fence.
Yeah. Never mind. It's in February, and there'll be like probably 50 feet of snow on the ground by then. But we'll figure it out.
Whatever.
A little hibachi grill.
Stovetop griddle.
Yeah, exactly. A little hibachi grill.
We'll
and-
cater it. We'll cater it.
Yeah. There you go.
yeah, yeah.